What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to heal your relationship with food. Before we dive into that, I feel like this pre-contextualization needs to be stated in that this is not going to be like a strategy guide. This isn't going to be do this and then this and then this and then poof, you're healed. Like, that's not what this video is about. Because when we're talking about healing your relationship with food, it's about finding this healthy, harmonious balance to the very real truth that food is both a source of pleasure beyond the nourishment it provides. So it nourishes the body, and it is very, or can be quite pleasurable for us. And healing your relationship with food is not living on the extremes anymore, but finding yourself in that balance. And not even just finding yourself in that balance, but finding yourself accepting that that balance has it's like a bowling lane with bumpers on it. You can throw the ball off of each bumper, roll, and it bounces back and forth. And so your balance there then becomes, maybe sometimes you lean more towards the nourishment side. Maybe you're training for a specific event, or maybe you want to lose weight before a specific event. Okay, so maybe you're a little bit more on the nourishment end, and then there's, maybe I'm celebrating wins in life, or I'm going through a phase, and so you start to find yourself in that healthy window where it's not too far one way or the other. Maybe sometimes you lean one way more so than the other, but it's not at the extreme where you're super disciplined and you only eat out of Tupperware and it sounds miserable. Like, think about what you think about I spent a lot of time in gym cultures, and so I was around bodybuilders and seeing how they ate, it just looked miserable to me. I give them props for the work ethic they have, but you ain't never gonna catch me eating that way, type of thing. So, and then there's the other extreme where we're overindulging in these pleasures, and it's not just deteriorating our health, but it's deteriorating the mind. Maybe it's like sensory overload in a sense, but there's an addictive quality to it. And both ends of that spectrum can be quite addicting. And so that's why I'm saying this isn't a strategy guide, right? I mean, even in what I just said right there, like, so much can be extracted for what you need to do next. Like, none of my content is for the person who wants to be told exactly what to do. Most of you already know what to do. It's just maybe you need a nudge. And in this video, there's going to be that one statement I say that nudges you that direction, right? Because like, it is okay to enjoy the pleasures of our hyper palatable, highly processed foods in the culture today. It's a matter of how okay with it are you when you do it, right? Are you doing it just to like prove a point, whether it be to somebody else or to yourself? Like, oh yeah, I can eat 3 donuts a day and be okay, and then you go do it, and then it turns into a whole thing, but the action isn't pure. It's not coming from an aligned action that feels right to you. Like, I'm genuinely craving 3 donuts, and I could eat those 3 donuts without going off the rails or without proving a point to somebody. So wherever you land in that, it comes down to what is the action itself rooted in. So when you're eating ice cream for 2 weeks straight, I'm looking at myself, like Ben and Jerry's type of ice cream for 2 weeks straight, like what's the energy you're moving from? Is it coming from avoidance? Is it coming from shame? Is it coming from guilt? Right? Like to my emotional eaters out there who may eat emotionally when you feel guilty for something or when you feel sad about something. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying there's actually a time and a place to, in fact, indulge in that aspect of yourself. But when it becomes a point where it's, again, you're too far on the one side of the scale. You know, because like a healthy relationship with food is, again, honoring both truths, pleasure, nourishment, and then living somewhere in the middle, not perfectly in the middle, but like it's like a needle that floats back and forth. And how okay with you are you when you go this way, right? Do you trust yourself to go towards the pleasure side, knowing that you'll bounce back, or do you not trust yourself, right? Do you have fears around food? Like you fear of letting go of control, right? So then when we accept the truth that pleasure, nourishment, right? So we have to start there. If you can't even accept that truth, then this video is probably not even for you in the first place. So we start there, right? And then we have to recognize that our window, right? So the big truth, our window, our truth for how we want our healthy relationship with food to be is going to be with a smaller window within the bigger one, right? And then, so you have your window. Now, when you float back and forth, how do you feel about it? And I'm not just talking about like, how do you feel like energetically? Like my body feels good every day. Like that's great. But do you feel like you have a healthy relationship with food? Or does it feel too strict, right? You're over here too much like, oh my God, I need to fuel myself with the best food all the time. Everything has to be perfect. And so I don't even go out. I don't talk to anybody. I don't, whatever. You know, because again, maybe your life actually, like maybe you want to go out and enjoy meals with people. Maybe you want to go over to people's houses for dinner. Okay, so then you have to loosen the grip over here with the nourishment side and accept that maybe people don't cook food the same way for you, but like because the energy behind the decision is one of pure good intentions, like maybe it's loved ones. And so like it's not something you get hyper fixate on. And you can let go of control when you go out to dinner with your girlfriends or your guy friends. And you can accept that, you know what, they might be cooking in seed oils, or they may be using grain-fed beef or non-organic crops, you know? When you let go of that control of the strict side, then you have to make sure that there's a balance there. And when I say you have to make sure, it starts with defining what it is that middle ground is for you. Right? Like if you don't ever actually want to go out to eat meals with people, you'd rather stay in and cook, and you want to be around people who only eat that way too, you have to define that. And then once you have that definition, it's like, okay, how do you float within there? And then along the way, when you start to notice yourself teeter towards one end, what's happening there? Some people are like, I'm self-sabotaging, I'm falling off track. That may not be the case. You know, the life itself has this beautiful cosmic way of balancing the scales within our lives, right? Like we have our relationship with food, our relationship with money, our relationship with society itself, our relationship with our family, our relationship with our friends. And there's always this balancing act with each aspect of our lives. And so maybe you're in a season now where you're leaning more towards pleasure and you're feeling guilty about it. You feel ashamed of yourself. You're letting yourself go a little bit. Maybe that low point where you're overindulging isn't you self-sabotaging. Maybe it's actually, in fact, not you falling off track. I used to hear this all the time as a personal trainer. Oh, I fell off track again. What if it's not you falling off track? Because all the people who always said that to me were the type of people who were committed, and they had a slip up, and they didn't give themselves grace. They didn't accept that they had a slip off, so they tried to work harder so that they didn't slip up again. And what they actually did in the process of trying to make sure they didn't slip up again was they slipped up again, because they were putting so much effort into not slipping up again that they drained themselves to the point where their subconscious programming kicked in, and they reverted back to food to comfort themselves. And so that's why I'm saying there is a small, and when I say small, I'm just kind of saying small window within the bigger window to illustrate the point of there's the truth, there's your truth on how you want to live how you want your relationship with food to be. And so within your window, there's going to be a needle that floats back and forth. When you go this way, when you feel shame and guilty about overeating or however you feel, how do you show up for yourself in that moment? Because that's a wounded part of you. Maybe you used food when you were 7 years old to comfort yourself because mom and dad were always fighting, or because nobody was ever home, and so you just decided, like, I'm just going to eat food to comfort myself. And so that comfort mechanism is deeply wired into your brain. Now, you can do all the work to try to change that. I'm not going to tell people not to do the mental work to try to change their psychology. There is an aspect that you can change within that. But what if instead of trying to change or try to fix ourselves, right? Because the fixer wants to fix everything. The fixer in the psyche wants to fix your relationship with food. What if instead of trying to fix your relationship with food, you stay present enough with the wounds and not fix them, and watch as they balance themselves out? Because if you're watching this video, you are committed enough to your health and wellness to the point where if you just start listening to your intuition, you don't need to cultivate discipline at this point. You don't, okay, because if you do, you already know you do. And my words will bounce right off of you. But you don't need to cultivate more discipline. Everyone's always talking about discipline these days. Discipline's wonderful. It is phenomenal, very necessary, but it's necessary to a point. When that discipline becomes the weapon your ego, your mind uses to keep you stuck in the same patterns with food, then you're never going to get to that healthy relationship with food. So if you heal the wounded ego, when that shame comes up, when you find yourself going, your needle going this way, where you're leaning into pleasure maybe too much, and I say it like that just to kind of emphasize that this is what the ego's saying right now. I'm doing it too much because now I have a problem to fix. So you're leaning into pleasure too much. Right? Your mind notices it. The ego says, I'm eating too much shit. That's a problem I need to fix. So then you flip the switch all the way to the other end of the scale, where now it's like, I'm too strict in discipline. Like, you're not even enjoying the food, right? Because again, pleasure, nourishment. You can keep going back and forth. I, again, worked with so many clients in my personal training days that were too much pleasure, whoop, too much discipline, whoop, too much pleasure, too much discipline. Right? And then, so now let's talk about, like, okay, so again, I understand. I accept pleasure, discipline. That makes sense. How do I find my window in that then? Right? So the question becomes, how do you find your window within the much larger truth of it all? And that's where self-exploration comes in. You already have a baseline on the things you like and you don't like. Great, start to experiment with things. Right? Human health is an ever-evolving thing. What your body needs to be healthy depends on so many different variables. And if you want to talk very tactical things for you to try, anybody who leaves a comment, or better yet, if you comment, I might not answer, but if you email, I definitely will. If you email me, I can help you narrow in on the nuanced specific thing that you should do, because that's a very real thing. You are a biologically individual human being that should be honored in the decision-making process on how you should eat and nourish your body. But this comes down to an inner listening, right? Like, what do you actually need right now? Because there are going to be times where, like, life is throwing all the shit at you, right? Like, the kids are doing this, your mortgage is due, finances suck, like, things are just not going your way. And you may lean into food for comfort. Can you accept that? You know, even when people are on weight loss journeys, it's an ebb and flow. You know, you hear the person who loses the 60 pounds in 60 days, or that's probably an exaggeration, but a lot of weight in a little amount of time. And it's like, yeah, they probably, their scale just went like this, but it doesn't always work that way. This is where we have to honor our own biological individuality, right? You are biologically unique. Your body requires certain things, right? In traditional Chinese medicine, they talk about our constitution. Constitutionally speaking, we all have different needs, and nutritional needs, movement needs, right? Breath work, all these different practices that we already implement. And so you have to start to listen inwardly and discern between ego and maybe the divine, and then also like within your thoughts, and then also notice the divine within your egoic thoughts. And so many people talk about ego as the enemy, but like, you know, that is very much a part of what you do. Okay, people don't, I read a book called Ego is the Enemy. And very much people on the internet frame ego as like a bad thing. And I understand why, but I want to reframe it in a sense that like, it is a natural part of your individual journey here on earth. And I know it's not always pleasant, but the shitty things that we have to experience, like maybe struggles with food or your relationship with food, is a part of your journey, because what it can teach you is how to have that healthy relationship with food. You see, we always want the outcome, but your path is the way to the outcome you want. You just have to be willing to go through it. And going through that in this case means listening inwardly to what your body is craving. Like your body's always giving you cues. The body's always giving all of us cues. Right? Like I have this thing every summer where I eat ice cream for like a month straight every night. And it didn't happen as long this year as it did last summer, but I'm pretty sure it actually has something to do with two things: electrolytes. I think I might be a little bit deficient in them. And then the second thing is even in traditional Chinese medicine, they classify foods as I don't know, I'm probably going to butcher this a little bit, but like foods that are hot, and then foods that are cooling foods and warming foods. And we need a balance of both, but there are certain seasons of life, and I mean that like both like spring, autumn, winter, and the seasons of life that you are experiencing, psychologically speaking, require different nourishment. It'll never stay the same. It'll never stay the same. And if you if you want to keep evolving, if you want to keep nourishing yourself, if you want to keep getting healthier, then it means evolving with your body as it evolves. And I mean that psychologically speaking. Your mind has to evolve with your body as it continues to evolve as you get healthier. Right? There's no finish line. There's no finish line when it comes to this. Your relationship with food is like any relationship. It is an ongoing process that constantly needs to be refined and remolded and recalibrated. Big ways and small ways. So it's owning the truths. What's your window within that? Going back and forth. You know, when the needle goes one way, can you hold space for the negativity that shows up? Because you may feel guilty, you may feel ashamed. Can you hold that? And just listen to that part of yourself. Listen to like 6-year-old you who's overeating again because mom and dad are fighting. And then listen to the other side of things, like how strict and rigid you become with your dieting when you have an event coming up. And like just get to know both aspects of yourself. And then the truth will find its way somewhere in the middle. Again, we could talk nutrient-dense foods. I can tell you about how to navigate the grocery store and marketing and all those things, and that's wonderful stuff. That's necessary, but that information has a limitation if you're unwilling to find out where that window is for you to live in. May even help to start by defining what a healthy relationship with food even looks like for you. It's very much a visceral experience, but if your mind isn't on board with if your mind and body are misaligned and you don't even know where your sense of direction is going, then the mind it has no aim. And so if the mind has nothing to aim towards, it's just going to look back. Because it knows something here. Out here, it knows nothing. So if you need an aim, if you don't even have an aim at what a healthy life looks like for you, then start there. Imagine yourself in a healthy relationship with food. What does it look like? What kind of foods do you eat every day? How many times do you eat a day? Sure, it may change, but generally speaking, are you more a breakfast person or a dinner person? Do you want there to be space in your life for cookies and ice cream and desserts and all the hyper palatable foods? Or do you want to be strict and rigid?